YouTube. Let me start Facebook. Okay, brother. Wait. Yeah, let's start.
Good afternoon, friends. Welcome to another episode of Ep15 Live with Coach Grenville. I'm with Grenville. So we will continue today with our business plan discussion. And humble request to you is follow us on Coach Grenville channel both on FB as well as on YouTube. Welcome, Grenville. Good afternoon.
Hi, Praveen. Good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm good, Grenville. Grenville, last week we discussed about the basics of business plan. So in continuation of it, so let's go with what are the other essentials of a business plan.
Yeah, see, as I said, business plan is supposed to be a tool that you are supposed to use on a continuous basis. It is not a one-time activity, and it's not something that you prepare, submit to the bank, or give it to your partners, and then you go back to doing what you're doing. I mean, then the whole purpose of doing a business plan is defeated, right? So we expect to use the business plan as a tool to be an ongoing measurement of the progress you've made vis-a-vis the plans that you made at the starting of the project. Okay, so maybe today let's discuss this with an example of the different aspects of the business plan and how it was actually implemented and used in the past. Do you think that makes sense?
Yeah, that would be nice, Grenville. That would be explain it for a lot of people to get out their beliefs and doubts on it.
Great. So the first aspect is about the strategic direction that the company needs to take, right? So we started the whole process by evaluating both the owner on what are his intentions of what he is planning to do, as well as what is his mission for his company. Okay, there is a reason why we do this, and the reason we do this is that we want to make sure that the wishful thinking of the owner is brutally brought to reality check. Okay, because you cannot be in a business hoping that things will be good, right? You have to have a practical plan how you can take this business, this vision, and convert it into a business. Now, for example, I had a customer that I was working with where he had a vision that he wanted to start a new fashion line. Okay. Now, the fact is when we sat down together, we realized that the whole concept what we are trying to approach doesn't work because he has not got a clear direction if this will work or not. It's again, I'm going to try and it may work. If it works, good. If it does not work, we'll come back to the drawing board. Now, that is not a right way to approach a business plan. You have to sit down first and evaluate, why am I getting into this? With this example, what is the purpose of starting a new line? The purpose of starting a new line is that he wants to increase his profit. That is his ulterior motive, or not ulterior, the final motive of what he is trying to reach, right? So with that being the common goal of what you want to do, we need to sit and evaluate, is bringing in a new line of clothing the right thing to do? Okay, I mean, how you do it is as equally important to what you want to do, right? You want to create money, but you're saying, I'm going to create a new line. You've actually diluted the attention of everybody involved in the transaction. And you are going to be working on improving the line and making the line good, rather than focusing on, can I make more money and what are the ways I make more money? So it's very crucial to everyone who's involved in business planning, whether it be the consultant or whether it be the customer, to clearly understand that we have to go into depth on why are we doing or why are we changing something from what we are doing today, right? The change may not be required. You could do what you do now better and still achieve the goals that you want to get. The preconceived notion of a lot of people is that when you have to sit down to do a business plan, something is wrong, right? We have to change to make it better. Okay, now something is definitely wrong for sure to a certain extent. If not, you wouldn't be needing to do a new business plan, right? But that does not mean everything is wrong. right? So it's always important that you don't lose the essence of what good you were doing till now and start up doing everything from scratch. Then you are taking yourself backward rather than forward in what you're trying to achieve, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
in this example, what we did is we went back to the drawing board and sat down saying, what are the current lines of clothing you're doing? What is the price you're quoting at? Why is it not selling? The outlets that they had, we evaluated finally that we were in the wrong place for the foot traffic. So we realigned the whole product range first, saying we're going to position it differently. We opened up a different outlet and shut down the earlier outlet, and the things came back to normal. The need for a new line was not even there.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's interesting. That's interesting. Grenville, you were saying that you wanted to understand the motives of the entrepreneur before you make a business plan. So you go in terms of what, like is shop bearing capability or is Mister? What are the things you look at that when you say that you wanted to look at the owner's mind map or his frame of mind?
Okay, when I sit down with the owner to first understand what he wants, my goals are to understand his personal drivers, what is driving him. Okay, because all of us have our own driving force and we have a reason why we do what we do. Okay, we are not people are like machines. We're not that you have an input, you have a certain series of numbers and you have an output. We have a mix of personal, spiritual and sentimental goals that we want to achieve by doing a certain thing and changing a certain thing in our life. Okay, the first step is to identify you need help. So they have taken the first step that, okay, I'm reaching out to somebody that I need help. So the step here, the duty of the person who's coming in is to ensure that we don't manipulate the person or just do it for the sake of the money and say, oh, you know what, I've got somebody, let me take the revenue out of the person. The duty of the coach, the ethical duty of the coach is to sit down and first understand, can I add value to this person? And am I going to really bring the value that he needs by being involved with him? So that is what I do. I sit down and not just evaluate whether he is a good fit to me. I also evaluate, am I a good fit to him? That is a mutual, it's a relationship that you need to take forward to bring benefit to everyone involved, right? You are influencing lives. So when I sit down with the owner, I first go into his personal aspect saying, what is his background? Where does he come from? I try to identify what are his primal drivers. They call them the primal driver, right? Survival instinct is the biggest driver of all human beings. Okay, you have a flight or a fight mechanism inbuilt in us that you cannot change. And each one have a separate level of drive based on their experience right from their childhood. So if you are going to try and focus on his goal of setting up a business, you are missing a part about missing a most important part of what he is being driven to do. So if you identify that, you can serve the need in various ways. So when I sit down with them, that is what I do. I've sat with you as well. What we focus on, what is your drivers, what is your background, what is the reason you are getting into this, and why do we actually want to do this in the first place? If you answer these questions first, the likelihood that you have got a misalignment with what you as a coach are trying to do for the owner and the owner's intent will be removed. So the chances of success are much more better.
Okay, Grenville, yes, we have done the business plan. We are thinking that this paper it is going good. And we get into the market, and maybe 6 months' time or something, the market doesn't respond to like what we expected. And normally the fear creeps in because the investment is there, quality is not moving, what to do. At this juncture, what will the business plan help us?
Okay. The first thing is that if you have waited 6 months to see a result, you have first of all done your planning wrong. Okay, you shouldn't be waiting that long to evaluate your progress. The expectation is that when you launch the product, you do it first on a monthly basis. That is the expectation. You keep evaluating your short term and your long term. If you're not doing that, you're doing the whole business planning wrong. As I told you, this is not something you do once and sit down a year later and count the money you made or the loss you made. Then you're going about it in a totally wrong way. So what you need to do is set up a plan, and in the plan you do it first. As I told you, make a short-term plan, which is the first 3 months of your launch of your company. You make a plan for the whole 12 months, and you make a plan for 5 years. So you are addressing both the short and the long term with the knowledge you had when you started the launch, right? In the first month, you would have some ground reality to a certain degree of information that things were not the way you expected. This is what we need to tweak. Maybe this is the product we need to change. in the very first month itself, right? The expectation is that you keep tweaking the business plan as you go, that by the time you come to the third month, you've actually gone to at least one loop of the cycle. Business is cyclic, right? There's a top and peak and a low period of business. So at least you've gone to 1/3 of the business of a whole cycle in the product range and market that you are trying to address. So you get a feel of, are we heading in the right direction or not by the third month itself. And you should by then, from every time you're sitting down to evaluate the short term, you should adjust your assumptions for the long term as well. So you would very clearly know what are the wrong things you've done, and you should be able to adjust given that you've taken most of your base assumptions right. Okay, that you've done your market study well, you have targeted the right audience, and those initial work that you need to do in a business plan has been done. You should not have a big shock coming to you down the line. If you've not put enough work in the front end, you will surely see shocks when you go into implementation. That's why we say, just like you cut, there's a rule about cutting, right? You measure twice and you cut once. You apply the same rule here. When you go into implementation, you plan doubly more than what you implement. So you take a longer period of time to do the plan. Okay, but there's a risk of over planning and over analyzing. So striking a balance between how much you plan and how much you actually implement is what is the success of the process.
Okay, Grenville. So we were talking about, I was talking about the fears. And by some slight misjudgment on the market and things, the market is not, or my product is not moving as per the market, what I believe. So it has come to a crossroads, whether to go forward or what to be done. So how do you use this business plan to get a decision like whether we need to move forward or what should be done, what should be the correct action?
Okay, first of all, the business planning process expects you to set up a plan B. That is the expectation of a business plan. So whether it is manpower, whether it is a process, whether it is a products, you are supposed to have a fallback devised very initially before you even go into the launch. That is the expectation of a business planning process. So when you have the initial hiccup, you should try the second plan B option that you have set in place. But the biggest challenge for an entrepreneur is to walk away from the business if it's not happening. It's like a gambling instinct of a human being, right? If you see something go, you keep trying again and saying, I will make it up, I will make it up. That is the worst thing for an entrepreneur. When you see things going wrong, the first step you need to do is walk away. And that takes a lot of courage, and it's also a loss of money, but you will at least limit the level of loss that you are going to take away when you walk away without trying the same thing, expecting different results. So my advice to every entrepreneur is that watch your steps as you're going forward in the implementation, because for sure the assumptions you took and the reality of the market will be different. If you're expecting that you will have 100% accuracy in forecasting, you must be superhuman, because it's not possible. The market is changing, the people are changing, products are changing, the needs of the customers are changing on an ongoing basis. So you need to be connected to the market, and that's the reason why, as a part of the planning process, we evaluate things on a monthly basis. And in the month, we evaluate on a weekly basis. So if you're on an FMCG product, you evaluate every week. You sit on every weekend and say, what happened last week? How is my product moving? What are the products moving? What are the products not moving? And reevaluate your assumptions of what did we assume this will move and when will it hit its peak. So you need to keep evaluating your project deployment and your implementation at the same time.
Can you give us an example of your business plan for a new startup, as well as what you implement, like you are talking about the new clothing line and things? Can you give two different examples, like how you devise your business plan for a startup and how you modify or tweak it when it is an established company?
Okay, you're talking about a small company and a big one, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, a small company and the existing one, which we are trying to do a new product line or new thing.
Okay, a startup and an existing organization. Okay, there is not a big difference between a startup and an existing company. The major difference that is there with an existing company is that they have a history. Okay, so the risk of assumption is less. So if you have an organization more than a year old, you have a history of performance, good or bad, it doesn't matter, right? That is your history of actual sale or actual performance that you have done as an organization. So when you are looking at that, that gives you a feel of what has been your performance and what is the market response to your products. So you have more grounded information that you can use to evaluate evaluate your assumptions for the future and go forward much more with the firm information you have from your own history. But in the case of a startup, there are much more assumptions that you take. Okay, you are evaluating a market that you've never been into. You're selling a product that the competition may have, which you don't have. Of course, you may have an edge over the competition on certain aspects, but whether that edge will sell or not, only time will tell. So when I work with a startup, the things we always do is we keep many more backups in place in many more facets of the business. For example, supply. We have a plan B supply. We have a plan B for products, and we have a plan B for the manpower also. Because in a startup, the likelihood of people walking away is much more. Because people already are uncertain joining a startup, right? They feel that, okay, like young kids with a lot of energy want something new, they come in, but they also take the shock of failure much more faster and leave. So your chances of not having the right manpower to do the work is much higher in a startup than you have in an organized company. But they have seen a long trend with you as an establishment, right? So their belief in you to recover is much higher. So you are less likely to lose people. So we miss this aspect about what happens in planning, is that in the end, the people doing the planning are the more important than the company or the owner. Because here you're just giving the vision and direction, but the people are the ones that implement it. So coming back to your question, in a startup, what I do is I sit down with them and we devise first a short-term plan for the first 3 months, a 1-year plan for them, and a 5-year plan. This is what we do, and we do it at different levels. In the 3-month plan, it is right down to the actual product itself. How much are you going to sell? Where are you going to sell? Who is the customer? How many units you're going to sell? What is going to be your pricing strategy is devised for the short term. And that is where you focus on the implementation because you're starting from scratch. And then you keep tweaking the long term, which is the 1 year and the 5-year period, to match up with what you're seeing as you go forward. After a year, you're pretty much on par with the experience of an established organization. But by then, you also have a history of 1 year. But in an in an established company, what I normally focus on is what has been their history. Okay, what has been the performance? What products have they actually tried? And go deep down into why did the product succeed or why did they fail? Now, there could be a spike in a business of a certain product for a certain time need. And that is misguiding information that could skew your decision making in setting up a plan. So I really focus and say, why did this product do good? Now, people always say something doing good, leave it, it's doing good. But that could have a steep dip as well, as fast as it took off. So it's important to evaluate those products that are doing well and those that are doing good. Set up the product portfolio much more robust than what it is today, so that you are having a clear-cut direction that how you are going to take this company forward from where it is today and fix the issues that they have actually faced. Okay, there may be some you cannot fix. So you actually walk away from those products. So you realign your product portfolio and move forward. I'm going to give an example of an established company. I think I said it in one of the earlier episodes. I had a customer in Salem who's a retailer for 3 generations. Okay, and he has been doing business consistently for 3 generations. And the last 3 years, he's been losing money. Okay, when he came to me, and again, it's not like he's a big organization with multiple levels of bureaucracy that you need to worry. It's a one-man operation with 2 people in the warehouse and a retail counter. But when I went through his whole evaluation, what I realized that his model itself was outdated. He was working in 100% cash and carry. Today's market, there is no cash flow. And in a COVID situation, now this started luckily before the COVID, but even in a non-COVID situation, the whole world was heading towards an economic slowdown. And he was expecting to run business from his counter. So we addressed the issue about him having to extend credit with a certain level of risk, only to those customers who had a history with him. So we evaluated those customers saying, these are the customers who we can rely on, and these are the ones we are going to give credit to. And we changed the policy of no credit with those customers who were established. The second thing we did is we evaluated the product portfolio. He had like thousands of products because he was dealing in construction products. The problem with that is that you have nuts and bolts all the way up to huge things like tiles and partition and particle board. So we evaluated what are the products we need to keep at any moment of time, which are the fast moving goods, and what are the ones that the customer would be ready to wait for. Now, the ones that he can wait for are the ones that is going to be heavy in price as well. So we balanced his product portfolio as well, that we brought his inventory down, we brought his holding cost down, at the same time address the needs of the customer by giving both credit and product to them on time. So what happened is that in the COVID time, he made more money than he has made in the last 3 months. So which I'm sure you'll find it surprising because everything slowed down, right? And you would expect him to also see a slowdown. He saw his business take off. So the important part is when you're looking at an existing organization is to address the issues that you're having with both a higher sale and a lower sale, and it may not necessarily be with the product. It could be with things like pricing, with your terms, with your image as an organization. There are so many factors that come into play with consistency of performance of an existing organization. But when you do a startup, it's a totally different ballgame, right? A startup is a lot of thought process about what if not. So the important part is to have a clear direction of what I do with a startup. I tell them is start with one product, start with one focus and one product and one direction, so that you don't have too many efforts spread out too much, because one, you are lacking in manpower, you are lacking in resources. So you take one, do it properly, establish it, and then move on to expanding your product portfolio, which may not be possible in all cases, I know, but to a larger extent, this is very much possible. Even in FMCG, you should take one product and focus on distributing that product first and getting your returns back. One, it will improve your cash flow. Your inventory levels will not be that high, so your inventory holding cost will be very less. And the amount of manpower you need is very less when you're having just one focus going on. So that way you balance your, progress versus your revenue with balancing the process in a startup. I hope that long answer answered your question.
That's an interesting explanation on that, Grenville. That is nice. It gives a clarity like what should I think about it. But the normal, the impulse of an entrepreneur is to make a break even as fast as possible. So normally they try to juggle with one or two products to see that which matches up the sale so that they have the revenue to run it on. So when this is totally a clash with your what we are discussing in the business plan, how do you educate the entrepreneur to stay with one product or one line of business and then move forward?
Look, I'm not saying that multiple products is wrong. Okay, if you have the resources, if you have the manpower, and if you have the clear vision and plan for multiple products, so basically you're talking about having multiple business plans in place with plan Bs for the launching of those products or those businesses. If you have the capability and the manpower, of course, go for it. But it's going to be like running multiple businesses, right? Not like running one business.
What I was trying to say is that, say, suppose I'm going in the market with plan A or a product A, then suddenly I feel that I have a product B which has a demand. So normal tendency of an entrepreneur is like, I already have a product B. Why don't I push product B? A tagline product B. So when these confusions keep on happening, it doesn't take the company forward. So how would you advise a entrepreneur, the business plan, to keep on to his original plan? Because the impulse of selling becomes higher.
You're right. I mean, there is no question that you would always find these new opportunities coming in as you deploy your individual product, because you have allied products that are also available. That could be an opportunity at the moment of time. Now, there is no hard and fast rule that this is the only way to do it. But my suggestion to all the entrepreneurs is this. Okay, when you are making a plan, you should visualize all the possibilities of your product portfolio. So if you have done an evaluation to that extent, these small opportunities are always going to be there. Okay, you are always going to find another opportunity that came up unexpected. But if you have set your plan right for the first product and you have agreed that you will wait such a long period of time, like a month or maybe 3 months or whatever is the deployment period of the product, that is the path to take. Because if you get sidetracked, whatever effort you've put into this product is lost. Your investment, your inventory, everything is going to go to waste. You are going to start with scratch with maybe a plan B product that you've set in place, which would be level 2, right? But if level 1 is not taking you for whatever reason, go to level 2 for sure. I would never tell somebody keep on trying something which is not working and forget about something else. The important part about the business planning process is you keep on taking market feedback and you keep fine-tuning your business plan is the secret of a business plan. I would never tell somebody just because you made a plan, keep following it. It's totally doing something which is non-productive. You keep evaluating and again, it's a matter of judgment calls, right? Again, the owner is the person who knows his cash flow, the person who knows what he is trying to do and also knows what he wants to achieve. My goal as a coach is to give him the direction that he needs to keep his focus in one place. Now, if he's going to plan B, he should not again jump back to plan A and say, oh, you know what, this is not working, now I come back to plan A. Then you are going pretty much nowhere. You'll eventually find you've tried out multiple products, multiple times, and you've invested all your effort and time for no use. So what I do with everybody is that, yeah, sorry, you saying something?
Yeah, what you are explaining now is the most common phenomenon faced by most of the entrepreneurs because they urge to prove themselves. So what they try to do is they get into one product and somehow or other when it is about to end, they find interesting that product B is going to come up. So they jump into product B, again come back into product 1, 2, and they get confused and ultimately they, at the end of the day, they lose the business and they feel that they have done something wrong on that. So I think your concept of moving with one product to analyze where it goes in the market, what is the consequences, and whether it's a right line of business to do, all those things are it will be quite helpful for future entrepreneurs to get things going.
Just a clarification, Praveen. I am here not saying one product. I'm saying stick with plan A. Whatever your plan A was, right? Whether it was one product, multiple products, one business, multiple business. If you set a plan A, we would have gone through the process of evaluating the risk and the return, right? That would have been something we would have done. So stick to the plan A till you go through the whole cycle of deployment to see the results that you want to get. And if that is not working, yes, then quickly tweak and jump to plan B if you see it not taking off the way you go. But as I said, when an entrepreneur sits down, the things he needs to evaluate is the lead time before he would see any revenue. There is always a lead time from launch to return on investment, right? So he needs to evaluate, do I have the funds to carry me till I have my return on my investment there? That is very critical. You cannot have a surprise saying, oh, I didn't know I ran out of money. That means you've not done your financial piece right. So if you have a plan that you'll wait such a period of time for your return, and this is your reading of the market, that it takes so much time for the product to get in, there should not be a need for you to jump to plan B. If you have mentally prepared yourself. But if you have not, and you just had a discussion and you're changing, most probably you have not done your evaluation right. So that is the way you find out that, okay, I have not done my enough homework to convince myself, and that I mean is the owner, that I have agreed with the coach. I mean, the expectation is that there should be a challenge process between the needs of the owner, which, as you know, are short term. They want things like tomorrow, and the level-minded thinking of a coach that should give them the direction and the evaluation of what they're getting themselves into. If this balance has been struck right, you should not have those things coming up that, oh, you know what, I am panicking now. Because if you either bought in or you haven't, right? That is the way you should read the situation, right? That I buy into one of the other's thought. Again, there has to be a commonality of expectations. The coach could have a very idealistic approach of theory that this is what I could do as theoretically speaking. But on a business end, the owner is the one that knows the actual practicality. So he needs to bring that in the challenge process when they're setting up the business. Did that answer your question?
Before we go, we are the time of closing. Before we go, you keep on telling coach, but normally in the business scenario, we always know about mentors.
Correct.
So coaches are very new and it is coming up. So what do you mean? What's the difference, basic difference between a mentor and a coach?
Okay, let me ask you a question. Have you played cricket?
Yes.
Okay, did you ever have somebody who had coached you?
Yes.
Okay, what does he do?
He spends more time with me. He tries to teach me the new techniques, or he pins out my faults and he says, okay, you don't do this, you have to do this. All those things. He continuously monitors me to do things on it. Okay,
good that you got that. So the point is, a coach is somebody who works hands-on with a person, identifying not only his weaknesses, but his strengths and his weaknesses, and helps him leverage his strength and his weakness, right? He works with a person on an ongoing basis to educate a person with what he can do, right? Saying this is what you can do, right? Make this better. And this is what you are not doing right. Here is how you do it right. And try and convert that opportunity into a strength. While a mentor is more somebody who gives you a vision, who gives you philosophy. Okay, and you as a person are able to absorb that philosophy and change yourself. Okay, that is broadly the difference between a coach and a mentor. Maybe we'll do it in a totally different session, which is a huge topic of discussion.
Yeah, okay. We'll keep it for we'll wait for the viewers' views, and if they want us to discuss more on
sure.
what are the essence of a mentor and a coach, then we'll take it up on that.
Absolutely.
Grenville, it was nice talking to you on a Sunday afternoon. We should catch up next week.
We will. Thank you, Praveen, for joining me on this series, and it's a pleasure having you. So for everyone who had watched live and for those who are going to watch the recording, Please leave your questions and comments, and as we would like to have feedback from you on how better we could do this series and take it forward. Thank you all for your time. See you, Praveen.
Thank you.